So FFPC, they make you draft the kicker and defense. Yeah. It didn't used to always be that way, but sometimes they changed it, right?
Not.
So you have to have a kicker and defense, but in season you don't have to have a kicker or defense on your roster. Mm-hmm. So what I started doing, I started dropping my kicker on the Thursday run to see, and I'd pick a guy that's playing on Thursday to see how he plays. If he does good, great. If he doesn't do good, I drop him back and pick up a kicker for Sunday. So I always had that extra player, I like that look, you know. So I used to tell him about it. Don't tell anybody. I used to always tell him like, don't tell anybody.
I figured it out, it's coming around. You got a case of amnesia. Baby says all of the fun, but I hit the wall, and I've got a ton of hunks waiting for me to leave ya. I know I'm alive, but I got the spot. The minutes you smile, no interruption. I don't understand what you pretend. My heart is cold.
Welcome to First and 15, the only podcast that's trying to get you paid. I'm here with two-time FFPC champion AB. Of course, our guy, Dio the Machine, is here. Guys, we finally have the guy that we've been wanting to bring onto this show for a long time. Scott Barrett is here. Listen, if we were going to bring on a guest, it was going to have to be a big fish. Yeah. We have Scott Barrett here, CEO of Fantasy Point. Scott, how does it feel to be on the couch?
It feels great, man. This is a super comfy couch. Happy to be. I know you guys got me 2 drinks. I'm feeling good.
I was like, "Mama, we made it. We got Scott Barrett on the podcast.
Yeah. We made it."
Hey, I'm sitting next to a millionaire right now. We've got a fantasy football legend. I was saying what he did back to back in the Football Guys Players Championship will never be done again. That's more impressive than Nolan Ryan's strikeout record. It's up there. It's never going to be topped.
Legendary Red. Guys, let's talk about the Cowboys. Let's start the Cowboys for a second. We've all heard that Mike McCarthy is now going to be calling plays for the Cowboys. We believe that he's going to have this West Coast offense that he's run before. We don't know that yet because we haven't seen any plays. We haven't seen anything with this offense yet. Do you guys believe the narrative that this is going to be a ground and pound offense and just maybe throw some slants and dump offs to to Pollard, or do you guys think that they are still going to be hitting CeeDee Lamb down the field and this is going to be an explosive offense like, I guess, kind of what it was last year?
Yeah. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. So I mean, I think CeeDee Lamb could still hit value. He's kind of actually a fade for me at ADP, late round 1. So Sigmund Bloom, Football Guys, has this, he talks about it on like almost every episode, like the assumption of rational coaching. The assumption of rational coaching is, you have Dak Prescott, a really good quarterback. You could throw the ball, but like this is not a rational coach to me. This is like sort of a donkey, in my opinion, who's always been massively overrated. You do not let Kellen Moore go. Kellen Moore is easily one of the greatest young offensive minds in football, in my opinion. So like that was a huge mistake.
He was snatched up like this.
Of course he was. Quick. And they would get into feuds because McCarthy just wanted to win with the ground game. He wanted to win with the defense. He foolishly gave Zeke Elliott more carries than Tony Pollard, who is far and away the best, most explosive runner in football. And so, I am super out on this Dallas Cowboys offense. On the whole just about the entirety of the offense. The one player I keep going back and forth on, and there was like a time where I had him as my RB4. That's Tony Pollard, who just last season, he ranked 25th in expected fantasy points per game that measures the worth of his role, his volume, 25th in XFP per game. And he ranked 9th in fantasy points per game. That is insane. That is remarkable. He is so good. And then Zeke Elliott is no longer there. And so it's like if he gets just 40% of that, he could easily be the RB1 in fantasy. And that's just 40%. So like, he is someone I really waffle on. One thing I will say I was listening to Bucky Brooks during draft season, and he said, I was talking to my friend from the Cowboys front office, and I was like, why don't you give Tony Pollard more touches? And he said, we really believe like he needs to be at 12 to 14 touches per game because we think anything more than that limits his explosiveness, which is so stupid because every time you have given him 15 plus touches, he has like 200 yards from scrimmage. Right. But again, it's assumption of rational coaching.
I think Pollard actually like agreed with that. I think Pollard came out and actually said, like, coach is right. I kind of need to stay fresh with just those 14, 15.
So part of it, like Austin Eckler said the same thing last year. He lobbied to get touches taken off of his plate, but what happened? He like touched. He was the only one to touch those points because like he is so good, and like Ronald Jones isn't good. Like Leonard Fournette, if he signed someone like that, isn't good.
That's an interesting take. I don't think I've heard anyone who's kind of been like almost full on fade for the Cowboys outside of Pollard, and even then, it's kind of
I mean, FFPC, Jake Ferguson in the last round, I think is great. But it's like outside of that.
I would say this. I'm with you. I'm like not on CeeDee Lamb. I think, the idea that he's going in the first round to me boggles my mind because last year he was in the best possible position that he could be in. He had little competition. Gallup was coming off an ACL injury, and he still talks about like how he was not fully himself. His other competition was like Noah Brown. And an injured, I got to point that out, an injured Dalton Schultz throughout most of the year with an injured PCL. And he had Zeke and Pollard, and that was pretty much it. So, and he obviously had Kellen Moore. We removed Kellen Moore from the situation. We have a healthier Gallup. Okay. We add in Brandon Cooks. To me, I don't see how this now, puts CeeDee Lamb in a position to be in that top tier of wide receivers. The guys who truly dominate targets, who truly can dominate in the red zone. To me, last year was the ceiling year because I just think you add those other pieces in and you take away Kellen Moore. To me, that really limits his upside. I think he'd be a great wide receiver one. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you're going to lose your league if you draft him, but I think there's an issue. I don't think he has a ceiling. So why would I take somebody without a ceiling in the first round? Right. Absolutely want no parts of CeeDee Lamb, but this is where and I'm the one that added this question because something doesn't add up with this offense. Like. They want to ground and pound, but how? You have CeeDee Lamb, you have Michael Gallup, you have Brandon Cooks, you have Dak. You can, we can kind of question the Dak, and you have Pollard, but you're not going to give Pollard 30, 30.
Well, we just talked. They want to limit his touches.
They want to limit his touches. So I don't see anyone else in that backfield. I don't see anyone that they can physically bring in outside of Dalvin Cook to where they can really, truly ground and pound. And I do think, I can't recall the schedule off the top of my head. I remember the 15 through 17, which is amazing. But I think they're going to be in a lot of competitive games. And we talked about it before. Like, I'm less so on, strength of defenses, passing, rushing, and more so on game totals. And I think they're going to be in a lot of games where that game total, that Vegas total, is going to be pretty high. And I don't think they're going to be able to get there with the run. Right. Their defense is good. But they've historically been really good at scoring touchdowns. Right. Could see some regression there. So I'm kind of buying Dak a little bit because of where he's going with the idea that, there's that chance that they just can't do what they want to do and they have to lean on their best assets, which I think is their receiving core and Pollard in the passing game because I think a way that you can ease Pollard carries and touches is by including him in that passing game and basically don't do what you did last year to Kamara. Please don't do what you did last year to Kamara.
You think you're going to spread the targets around?
No. I think CeeDee Lamb is still going to be a wide receiver one. Okay. I just think he's going to be low end. We talked about that. We had this running debate between Gallup and Cooks. I honestly,
it's a bet.
Yeah, I love where Gallup is going in drafts.
It's a $50 bet.
It's a $50 bet.
Yeah. What was this bet?
That Gallup would outscore Cook.
No way. Yeah. Can I get some money on this?
I love Gallup this year.
The thing is I've never been on Gallup. I do this thing every year where I'm just completely out on a player, want no parts of it, and then the following year I'm in. I like more so where he's going late because I think there's a lot of outs. I think there's outs where they could really move him around the formation, like you said. Assumption of rational coaching. They talked a lot about moving him around the formation. Maybe McCarthy just has in his head this is the guy that we gave a lot of money to.
Don't forget,
I believe in this guy.
Second year off the ACL.
This second year off the ACL. That's the biggest thing. The second year off the ACL.
Trying to gain that confidence.
And as a Texans fan, I watched all the Houston Texans game last year, and I don't know what the analytics say. You know, Cooks is a good wide receiver, but I don't think he's someone who truly should demand targets. Like I think he's great. I think he's great down the field, but I don't see him. To me, like having him play the intermediate role is basically taking away from CD. Okay, so I think CD owns that. I think Cook is best used downfield, and so is Gallup. Both of them are. But I don't know. That to me is a little sketchy.
So there's two guys. Neither of y'all. Well, you said his name, but y'all didn't really go into depth. Two guys that are like just ringing in my ear that I was hoping y'all would actually bring up. One is Jake Ferguson. Right. You're talking about the intermediate route. If we kind of put Jake Ferguson in that Dalton Schultz role, Ferguson is the guy, in my opinion. You know, the guy coming in, it's going to be a second year. Remember, we said tight ends usually get that second year bump. Talented. He looked good last year. What Chris, you said there was times where he was on the field, you thought it was actually Schultz. So it's almost like he's going to play the exact same role. So I like him, and you can get him super late, like super duper late. If you're looking at these drafts, you can get him 18th, 19th round.
I might have been highest in the industry on him when he was coming out of college, too. I thought he had a
makes
really
it better.
underrated
That
prospect.
makes it better. Yeah. I need to get some more.
I need
but
more.
the other guy, because, okay, the question was the narrative.
Right.
I never heard this narrative. We were actually talking about this earlier. I never heard the narrative. I just missed it. I haven't been paying attention to my tweets. But apparently the narrative is they want to be ground and pound.
Right.
If they want to be ground and pound, and we were just talking about how the fact that Pollard is probably not best utilized with just too much wear and tear, like he kind of has his sweet spot. Somebody has to take those other carries, right?
Good point.
And if we look at the options available, everybody's kind of low on Ronald Jones, as am I.
No one even mentions him.
No.
The
Nobody
guy I'm waiting people to mention is Malik Davis.
Yeah.
Malik Davis, the guy that started over Damon Pierce in Florida. Looked good. Actually had a little bit of a receiving game to him. Pierce doesn't have a receiving game.
Right.
So he has that. They liked him last year, but I think he got hurt, so they didn't really use him much. But he's right there.
Yeah.
Like, are we just not considering him? He has the size.
Yep.
Right?
It's
Yeah.
possible, but again, like I kind of go back to the narrative of like, yeah, you can use him, but are you going to lean on him or are you going to lean on Gallup, Cooks, CD? That's just where, and shout out to Fantasy Points. You guys have like put out this new tool kit,
The data suite.
data suite, and so like I think the first week it was free, so I was just like, I'm gonna sign up. But I mean, literally, I'm in the office, I'm in the clinic. They're like, patient's ready. I'm like, give me 1 second.
I got 3 more days.
That's why I gotta wait all the time.
I got 3 more days. But it's number one, it's very easy to use, okay? And so it's just nicely aesthetic and visual, or it's a nice visual for the eyes. Like it's very easy to sort, very easy to find things. And so one of the simplest things I like to do, okay, what offenses were good last year and why were they good? Okay, so, I go to, offenses, I sort, okay, who scored the most points, okay? Dallas was near the top of the league in that. How did they score their points? They scored, I think, the second most rushing TDs last year. Zeke is gone. So either A, like Tony Pollard could truly smash, or B, like that regression from rushing TD may spill over to passing TD. Because again, they're going to have competitive games.
I see it.
So that has to go somewhere. Tony Pollard's not going to score 20 TDs. I mean,
Maybe. But
likely not going to score 20 TDs. So that has to go somewhere, pending, obviously them, bringing back Zeke or something like that. But the other thing too was like, I was expecting them to have far more passing attempts last year and to kind of be near the top of the league. And that's really not what I saw. I think they were about league average, but below league average in pass attempts last year and around league average in passing yards. So again, it kind of goes to the point of, there's still a little bit more room to grow. Even if Mike McCarthy says he wants to do X, Y, Z, if you're in a competitive game, you're in a competitive game. Yeah. And you're not going to be leaning on Malik Davis.
Yeah.
Okay, can I dive into a few of these things?
Yes, go ahead.
All
Please
do. So,
you're gonna have to just jump in.
It's okay. I get lost in the sauce.
So a few things. We were talking about CeeDee Lamb. I just posted a tweet today, so I want to reference it. Over CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz's last 19 full games with Dak Prescott under center, CeeDee Lamb only outscored Dalton Schultz by 1.1 fantasy points per game. And then if you throw out that one game where Philadelphia's slot corner left on the second play of the game and he destroyed me in DFS, they were basically even. But anyway, yeah, it's like he had the dream scenario, and it just didn't. Like he didn't. Failed to capitalize on it. It was a disappointing season to me, like as good as like the finish looked on paper.
That's what it was. That's what you think. That's what you remember.
The names he's surrounding, like I can't get on board with that. What do I think Dallas is going to do this year? I think they definitely sign one of these free agents. Like maybe it's Dalvin, that's really bad. Probably Zeke, and they just stupidly give him the ball a dozen times a game. Because that's exactly what they did. Like, it was so stupid. But that's exactly what they did last year.
If they do that, does that hurt Pollard?
For sure. But like, the flip side to that is like they don't sign anyone, and then like you should have been taking Pollard at the 103. Like, so anyway, the other thing I wanted to say was it's not just that Mike McCarthy isn't. Or it's not just that Kellen Moore is a genius. It's also that Mike McCarthy is a dummy, or maybe I just. But Kellen Moore, since he became an offensive play caller, his offenses or Dallas led the league in pace of play, whereas Mike McCarthy's offenses back when he was with Green Bay were nearly like dead last, despite having Aaron Rodgers, and he went so run heavy, and so it's like.
That's the kicker.
Right, and so you're losing like immense volume just on pace of play, and then he's also calling plays, and like he hasn't done it in a really long time. He wasn't good at it. Like I don't know if you remember the ouster of Mike McCarthy, like the tabloid fodder, like that big ESPN piece where like he was getting like massages, like like calling off practices to get massages in the locker room, and then it was also like him and Rodgers would butt heads. Where like Rodgers like this guy's an idiot. Like let me just call the plays, and like. Do you know who has the single game record for passing yards with the Packers?
No, who?
I'm like really bad with names. It was like Rodgers' backup, like that ran to week 17. Do you remember that? He threw for like 480 yards.
I think I remember you talking about.
Tim Boyle? No,
was it Tim Boyle?
I don't know.
I don't remember, but I think I remember.
We could pull it up. But anyway. Rodgers has come out after the fact. It was like that was the game they let me call the plays. I was like on the inside calling like 480 yards. But like when it's Mike McCarthy, I do remember that. Anyway, like that's just my job out. But
so who's the OC for the Cowboys? Is he just
Schottenheimer. Well,
it is McCarthy calling plays. Though,
McCarthy's calling plays, but I don't know what Schottenheimer's going to do.
So are we for sure it's going to be the McCarthy offense?
He said he's calling plays.
The McCarthy offense, by the way, is just like win with your defense and like hide your like sloth pace.
Yeah, good Cowboys.
Hey, y'all, my life. I could be overstating it. There could be value here, but it.
And let's talk about this though. Like, let's talk about analytics. Listen, Fantasy Points has advanced analytics that I think leads the industry. But what happens when the advanced analytics doesn't line up to what you see on the film? Like, which one do you trust more? The analytics, or do you trust like what you see on the spot?
I mean, I'm such a data guy. Like I trust it, and it's
layup question.
But like I'm not like analytics over film. It's just like that's me. Like
do you watch the games?
Yeah, for sure.
All of the games, or like you probably catch a game here?
I mean, I do Red Zone, and then like sometimes I'll go back and watch games, but like not as much as like Ben Gretsch or JM to win. A lot of other guys, just because like I'm not a great film analyst, but I am a really good like analytics guy. So like that's what I stick to. Luckily for me is like dating back to my PFF days and like all the charters we have compiling this data for Fantasy Points data. I'm friends with like a lot of legit geniuses. And so like I'll get their opinions. Like Brett Whitefield, who runs our charting team, is telling me Brandon Ayuk is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. I don't know if it translates to fantasy. This guy is getting open at will. He's a freak after the catch, route running goat. Like he's awesome.
Brandon Ayuk, huh?
And so like I mean like it's tough to make a case with Purdy and all these mouths to feed and all that stuff, but like, hey, I bumped him up 2 rounds in my rankings because this is the same guy who, said Patrick Mahomes is easily the best quarterback in this class, should be the first pick when he was coming out. He's given me so many amazing takes over the years. Should have listened to him when he told me Clyde Edwards-Helaire is like around 6 caliber plus.
We won that one.
So going back to Ayuk, and this is going on a tangent. What's the thoughts on Debo? Because
so from Brett's perspective is like Ayuk is like clearly superior to Debo. I think there's like important context here where like we have also an NFL insider on our staff, Adam Kaplan, for Fantasy Points, and he was telling us last year, he was like Debo looks like shit. He's like overweight. Like he seems checked out, and so like. But that's now being like reaffirmed by Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah. He's like getting photos of just chest.
He was like, I don't know if like a man has ever sent me so many pictures of himself topless, but like Debo said, I was in terrible shape last year. I'm really getting after it, and so you could explain that down year like that, and like if you
after he got paid, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, there was like a mini holdout for a while. But anyway, he's like one of the most freakish after the catch receivers of all time. He also gets those manufactured touches, including like goal line work as a runner. So it's like tough from a fantasy perspective because you also have Kittle and then you also have McCaffrey who's going to get his like 7 targets.
And we had a discussion about this because it just didn't make sense. And I think most people had Brock Purdy, especially when the news came out that he's going to be ready for camp, essentially, and definitely ready to start the year. Most people had him pegged as a starter. And that's pretty much been, what we've heard out of the 49ers organization. Right. So, to me, like, what other team can you point to that has 5 guys, at least in the FFPC format, 4 guys, going in the top 6 rounds? Mm-hmm. And these guys all play a role in the passing game. CMC in the first round, Debo in the 3rd or 4th round, Kittle in the 4th round, Ayuk now is in just a perennial 6th round, or he's just kind of trenched in the 6th round. Right. All these guys are going, and their quarterback is just not even being drafted.
Yeah.
I mean, at the very least, you just have to take a stab. Like if you have that many receiving options, I know he doesn't run, but still.
That's what I'm saying. Like I think that's the issue. He doesn't run. I think that's why people kind of just.
But I mean, look where Kirk Cousins is going, and Kirk Cousins has T.J. Hawkinson. I'm still questionable on his he's a great tight end, but I'm questionable on how he's not Kelsey to me, and he has obviously J.J., which is maybe the best in the game, and they got some couple of guys here or there, but we're drafting Kirk Cousins well ahead of him.
Let's be real. You still have people that are skeptical about Mr. Irrelevant, right? There's still people that are still
that's true. This is true.
There's still Trey Lance.
But they're not skeptical about Shanahan's offense.
Still, they still believe in Trey Lance. So, man, I feel you. I like Purdy, but it's crazy.
So,
when he was.
Can I speak on Purdy? Yeah. So, I don't think he makes sense in this format. I don't think he has QB mid-range, QB1 upside, low-end, QB1 upside even. But he is far and away my most drafted quarterback in best ball.
Yeah, exactly.
He got amazing.
Exactly.
He ranked 9th in fantasy points per start last year. He ranked 6th in fantasy points per dropback. And what is San Francisco trying to do? They're trying to dump Trey Lance's salary so they have more cap room next year and just ride Brock Purdy's minuscule salary. They are all in on him. And
that's the formula.
It's the margin of safety is it's impossible for anyone, it feels like, to fail given this supporting cast, which includes the GOAT play caller and Kyle Shanahan.
So you think Purdy holds on to that job?
Yeah, for sure. I think
for years, or this is just a year of trial.
I think 2 years at least. Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's the golden ticket in Superflex League, Superflex Best Ball League.
I mean, unless he just really sucks, but if he plays close to the caliber he was at last year, I think they ride it out with him.
And he's in the perfect offense for that. Yeah. These guys are yak monsters.
That's right.
They're yak monsters. And you in the defense, you have to be worried about all of these weapons all at once, moving around the formation. Oh, and guess what? You have an amazing play caller and designer in Shanahan. The only issue that offense may have is their O-line, because I think their O-line is taking a hit.
Is Joe Staley gone? No, I mean Trent Williams is still there, right?
He's still there, but that's pretty much it.
Retired.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you were talking, what's great? When you were talking, we were talking about 49ers. For some reason, I just kept thinking the Dolphins, right? Because you were talking about how these guys are drafted so high, but the quarterback's going late. You got 2 Dolphin receivers drafted in the first 2 rounds, and we're taking 2 at the very end. Is Tua undervalued in your opinion?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you throw out the game he left, or the game he had a concussion and really should have left, but didn't stay, the Bills game, and then you throw out any other game where he played on under 75% of the team snaps, he would have finished as the QB6 in fantasy points per game. If I'm drafting an FFPC, is not really a target for me, just because I I don't know. I just don't see league winning upside.
Yeah.
And he did have that 145-point game, and if you throw that out, he was basically like Kirk Cousins.
Okay, who are you drafting then in FFPC?
Who are you drafting, Abby?
Yeah, who are you drafting? Put the camera on him. We want to know. People want to know.
Are we talking quarterbacks?
Yes.
So
Okay. Who are you taking? Yeah. Put the board up. Who are you taking? I want to know.
So I have honestly no idea. I'm probably for the first time ever going early quarterback. I was the king of late round QB. Last year, my most drafted quarterback was Justin Fields. 2 years before that, it was Lamar Jackson. The year before that, it was no, it was Jalen Hurts, and then 2019 was Lamar Jackson.
Oh, you like the runners? You like the
of course.
You like Konami code.
What's your 40 speed?
I will say. So I have to write my guys, my draft plan that I do every year, and so this is something I'm deeply thinking about. Aaron Rodgers is another guy like Purdy, but even more so. I could see him winning MVP because
you know what.
I told you.
You did. He told me, and I was like, "Hey, I don't want Aaron Rodgers."
I was like, man.
I don't care about Hard Knocks, but
man.
I gotta say, because last year I was just completely off of Rodgers. Because I think the year before he had a pretty decent year.
MVP.
I was completely off of Rodgers because it just seemed like he didn't want to be there. He was doing all types of shit in the offseason, and he just didn't want to be there.
It's Green Bay.
I know, but he was there for a long time. But he just didn't want to be. And he had all these new passing and receiving weapons, and it was like he didn't want to develop a rapport with them. Now he's sitting courtside at Boston Celtics games.
Like training camp, right? Skipping camp.
He's doing all these things. He's talking about how good Garrett Wilson is. He's like buddies with Sauce Gardner. Yeah, I mean,
dude, he just gave up $35 million. He's all in. He's
all in.
And this is what got me.
That's
that
crazy.
Clips usually don't get me on Twitter. I usually just ignore them.
Yeah.
I'm usually only looking. What this guy lined up in the slot? No. But I saw the little. He just had this little, the swag and the slide arm to Garrett Wilson. He just had that look on his face. So we about to tear the league up.
Not to mention though.
Yeah.
I saw a recent picture of him. I guess the Jets put it out. He looked old.
He does look old.
Really old. I was like, did they do something?
And the O-line a little shaky, but he could be in Andy Dalton. All right, I'm gonna show y'all.
He also got skinny arms. I don't know if you ever seen his arms. It's like for a quarterback,
and that skin is starting.
So what I was just saying, the last two seasons he was with Nathaniel Hackett, he won MVP. Last year he had a broken thumb from week 5 on. You can excuse that. I just think he lacks truly league winning upside to be someone I'd name. Another guy I keep thinking really deeply about is Daniel Jones, who went right next to Geno Smith. He only had
confirmation bias.
I'll tell y'all.
He finished QB 10 last year, above Justin Herbert, above Tom Brady. He only had 15 passing touchdowns. He was throwing to guys with broken feet who would still get 100 yards in the playoffs. And now he has Darren Waller, who's easily my must-draft tight end by a landslide. Love Darren Waller.
We like hearing that.
And he's got a Konami code to his game. He ranked 3rd in scrambles last year. And he's got Brian Dable. We saw Josh Allen regress a little bit last year. It might have been the midseason injury. But Daniel Jones made this ridiculous leap. And I could see another leap coming for him.
He also has Isaiah Hodgins too.
Yeah. But I like that idea. The second year in the offense, okay, let's just, you struggled in the year. You've had a lot of offensive coordinators, a lot of head coaches. You've had a bad O-line. You've not had a lot of weapons. Let's keep things simple for this first year. Let's get you comfortable with the playbook. And then second year, let's open this up. Bring in Paris Campbell. Don't sleep on Paris Campbell. He's Isaiah Hodgins.
He would say that name first, right? Paris Campbell first.
Bring in Paris Campbell. Obviously, bring in Darren Waller. Jalen Hyatt. And you could, whatever you want to say about Jalen Hyatt, but the idea that they were thinking to themselves, let's bring in speed. Let's bring in downfield threats.
Situational deep threat. He could excel in that role. Daniel Jones.
He was a good deep throw.
He was the Blitnikoff winner. Daniel Jones ranks fantasy points data second best in deep passer rating.
Yeah.
And he ranked second lowest in deep passing attempts. And it's like...
That's what I was
So
trying to
that's
say,
what Paris Campbell's fast as hell, and Jalen Hyatt, super fast, elite deep threat in college.
So I'll be honest with y'all. Ever since that episode where I was like crapping on Daniel Jones,
You started going back.
These are my confessions.
he's going so late.
He is.
Yeah.
Like, he's going after Dak.
Yeah.
Just guys that I'm like, if this guy, because Chris keeps telling me future MVP Daniel Jones. I keep hearing that. I'm like, future MVP and Daniel Jones being taken this late. So I've been picking up a little bit.
Yeah, this is a unique year as far as I feel like you can really do anything when it comes to quarterback and really like your team and like your layout.
Yeah.
We've been talking about like or at least I've been kind of saying.
I mean, you finished in 5th place with Jared Goff. Like, this is a format.
I'm taking Jared Goff. Still going too late.
and Mike White, right?
Mike White.
Was it Jared Goff and Mike White?
Backup quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm just saying this is a format where like quarterback doesn't really matter.
That's true.
Yeah.
2 flex, 2 running
That's
backs,
true.
2 wide
That's
receivers.
true.
It's the tight ends, man.
It's a tight end.
Oh, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I
Tight
know.
ends. But another thing I want to say about Daniel Jones, it almost seems like he has a chip on his shoulder
Oh, yeah.
to me. Like, maybe because of the disrespect, people don't believe in him.
Yeah.
And it's like he's trying to prove like I'm the guy.
Yeah.
You know, so
You gotta
I
love
like
that.
it.
He wanted big money. He wanted big. I think you're right.
Yeah, I like that.
No, so let's talk about drafting for a bit because we've heard zero RB. We've heard about, listen, it seems like, because this wasn't really our draft. This was AB's draft.
Don't say
This
that,
last
man.
draft
We
was
put a
AB's
little
draft.
bit in it, man.
We put a little bit in it.
Nah.
But listen,
It was AB's draft though.
it's his draft.
And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little tipsy too.
They might not know.
I was coming back from a pool party. I was out in the sun all day. I was a little hazy.
But you've been drafting a lot.
That's a criminal offense.
Right.
Drinking and drafting. That's you gotta be careful.
But you've been heavy, robust RB this drafting season.
No, I've not. I've been playing it 2 ways. I've been playing both sides. Because when I first started, I was like, these running backs are going so late. Running backs are being pushed down the board. I have to respect the market. I got to respect the market. And I got to play the market.
Put our draft up.
So when I can see, the board falls, I was getting a ton of CD Lab. And I can start off, Stephon Diggs. I can start off Stephon Diggs and Devontae Adams because he was sliding. I was like, I'm going to do that every time. I love Amon-Ra. I'm not as high on A.J. Brown as everyone else, but I'll take him in the second round. But knowing I can get all of the potential running backs that are going between rounds 5 and 6, and even in rounds 4, I love getting that star stud wide receiver, especially the top 6 guys. The others I kind of play around with. But the running backs that are falling, like, to me, like, I like the idea of getting consistent production, and I feel like it's a lot more predictable trying to figure out what RB2 to play against a certain matchup versus trying to figure out what wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 to play against a certain matchup. End of season points always look the same, and it's like, okay, Terry McLaurin scores the same amount as Rashad White, but it's hard to know when to play Terry McLaurin. For me, I think it's not as hard to know when to play Rashad White. And if I got 5 or 6 of those guys, I can just toggle between who has the best RB matchup. So that's kind of the premise, but behind like a hero wide receiver or a 0 wide receiver build in certain cases if I want to get a little crazy.
It's really just the fact that we might be getting to the point where, again, we might be jumping the shark with the whole wide receiver heavy draft.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is like when I pivot.
0 running back.
Yes.
It was a profitable or a good strategy because everybody was taking running backs, and you were able to get like 4 or 5 top wide receivers, like top 10 wide receivers, and just have them all on your team. But now everybody's taking wide receivers. If you go 0 running back, your third wide receiver might be a wide receiver 2-3ish type of guy.
Yeah.
And then the advantage is really not there anymore. So then it's like what I'm always saying, with everybody zigging, I'm looking at the zag.
Yeah.
And if you're zag, you can really stock up on these running backs if you hit the right one. The only concern is that it's just a fragile position. So I'm still not there where you are yet. But let's see the vision.
Let's talk about this board. Okay.
Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
There you go. Get in there. Get in there.
We got to give him another drink.
This is what every investor says. Like, it doesn't pay to go with the herd.
Right.
In
Yeah.
fact, sheep get slaughtered.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you zig when others are zagging. Like, that's where all the money is, and like that's always been true for me
DFS
throughout my
right
career.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep.
So I get what you're saying. I just can't get on board with it. I think this is the ultimate 0 RB year.
Okay.
Like, look at we know about the RB age cliff. That historic draft class that had Christian McCaffrey, Aaron Jones,
Dalvin Cook,
Austin Eckler, Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
They're all like on the precipice of the age cliff.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry just broached the age cliff. We have the threat of multiple running backs holding out. Josh Jacobs, possibly J.K. Dobbins. We have, some of the young running backs you should get excited about. Breece Hall are coming off of like Javonte Williams, devastating knee injuries. With the added extra game onto the year, like when I do my post-draft presser series, like I listen to like every coach and GM talk. All of the ones who took running backs early said, "Oh yeah, the age of the bell cow is over. You need multiple guys. It's just such a long, grueling season." And so it's like all these things stacked on top of each other. But the biggest thing to me is just you go where the value is. And to me, I'm looking at this board. You want to talk about this board, and the value I'm seeing is, damn, Josh Jacobs round 3. Damn, Joe Mixon round 4. Rashad White round 6, round 5 turn. Round 6, Alexander Madison. Round 7, James Conner. I love all of those guys. That is insane value. So, like, if I can get that, like potential bell cows and a Rashad White, Alexander Madison, James Conner that late, I'm going to be trying to load up on wide receivers.
So
I will say though, like, I don't know about Chris Olave, Devonta Smith, round 2.
That's my point. So this is where we go. So my team here starts off Tyreek Hill. Okay, so I don't like to go.
This your team?
Yeah, this is Tyreek Hill is my team. So I don't like the 0 wide receiver build. I like the hero.
Oh, you got 2 of the running backs I met. Oh, 3 of the running backs I met.
Thank you. So it has, just like with 0 wide receiver,
and
it
this
has
is
to be
the
the right
format.
RB.
This is the format
Yeah,
too, where
exactly.
it's like you don't start 3. It's 2 and then 2 flex. So that does aid the argument. But sorry, go on.
See, converting.
I got you.
They didn't believe. They didn't see the vision. They didn't believe. But yeah, so we start off with Tyreek Hill, get a hero, and then, like you said, like I could have taken Jalen Waddle there, pair him with Hill. You can argue for.
I would have liked the team better if you did that, but that's okay.
But then you get to Olave, you get to Devontae Smith, and I'm like, great wide receivers, but are they going to score more than Jonathan Taylor?
Okay.
So I'm just so that's the issue. So I'm like, I don't want to just give up points.
You're
right. So then we get back to round 3, and I'm like, at this stage, I'm just going to assume that he's going to sign at some point. He doesn't have much leverage. He could definitely hold out, but I volume draft. I'm trying to beat 10,000 other people, so I just got to,
that's a good value
I got to
Josh
just
Jacobs.
take third round Josh Jacobs when he comes to me in the mid third round, and he's one of the few potential bell cows, right? And that's the idea behind for me for when I'm talking about this robust RB build or the hero wide receiver build is it's not just grab running backs, it's grab potential bell cow running backs and those who will play ideally a role in the passing game as well.
Right.
So then Joe Mixon in the 4th, you can argue that, but who am I taking after that? I like Christian Watson, but Joe Mixon versus a Drake London versus a Deontay Johnson, to me is, I'd just rather just take the guy in the elite offense with a lot of question marks behind him.
I think people are just taking these wide receivers. Just
and then, take them. So I can't get on board with DK Metcalf round 3, Calvin Ridley round 3.
But that's where they're going.
I know. I get exactly what you're saying. I will also say, like, Deebo Samuel, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Deebo and Keenan and Christian Watson, 2 of those went right before you. I like them exactly as much as I like.
I would have definitely taken Keenan Allen.
That's my guy this year for sure. Insane value.
So you mentioned a player, and I kind of want to hear your thoughts about him, but specifically Breece Hall. What are your thoughts? Him coming back with injury, like you mentioned that you still kind of like him. Are you not concerned at all with him coming back from that ACL?
So I don't really like him. Friends with Dr. Chow, another name drop, and we had this phone call where it was Dalvin Cook's sophomore season. I'm like, no, I think Dalvin Cook is so good. Like, I really want to go all in on him, but I'm worried about this ACL. And he's like, do not ever draft a running back their first year back from ACL. Do not ever. And I'm like, is it he's not going to be good? And he's like, no, he could be fine. It's just the risk of compensatory injuries, and also you tend not to be just as good. And then I'm like, it was Saquon Barkley, and I'm like, I don't know, like the risk reward. I'm like, it's like, do not ever draft. And so this is a tricky situation because like I think the Jets are an amazing bet to win the Super Bowl. Like they're like 7th in odds, tied with the Cowboys, who I hate. So like I think they could go nuclear. I think there could be like a ton of touchdowns. Like he could just fall in the end zone 12 times.
Yeah. So it sounds like
makes
you're not high on Breece Hall right now.
Yeah, but like the ACL makes me nervous.
So if you could pick him any round, any spot, where would you actually feel comfortable taking Breece Hall? Looking at this board too, the way everything.
Exactly. I like Gibbs more than him. I like Jacobs more than him. I like Mixon more than him. You
like Mixon more than him?
Yeah, I probably like Rashad White. Like that's definitely one of my guys this year.
Breece Hall? If that's the case, then he's being super.
It's tough, man. I'm just not drafting just because of the ACL thing.
Gotcha.
But I love the player and I love the team fit. It's also, by the way, like Dynasty. I think he's like, if you own him, like I would sell him immediately because he's like priced as like the RB2 or RB3. I like Jahmyr Gibbs so much more than him at cost. But it's not just the ACL. It's also like everyone's like, oh, he was the bell cow. Like he was just about to break out. Like he was producing because he's really good. Yeah. But the Jets are a team that wants a committee. That's all they've ever said. Even last year, Michael Carter was getting 60% of the snaps. And then he just drafted a rookie who stinks, by the way. But they did draft another rookie. Nah, I'm a hater.
You think he's trash?
Yeah, I think he's trash.
I gotta get rid of him, man. I gotta get rid of him.
We gotta have Scott Palmer off.
Come back, baby. So you think he's trash?
So he's a freak athlete, which there's upside there. Like I missed on Pacheco last year. He was a freak athlete. But I'm a big missed tackles forced and yards after contact, and by that trash. I looked at all of the running backs. All the running backs ever who had similar numbers to him in those two stats, and it was just all bust.
And we're going on.
It's like Javorius Allen and
so if Anaconda is not the target for because you just told Breece Hall is a D&D, do not draft.
I'm saying I'm not drafting him, but there's a point in the draft where
So which Jets running back would you draft if you were concerned with?
So none of them because I think none of them. So Breece Hall, but so I think Anaconda is a poor man's Tevin Coleman, where he's an explosive one cut and go guy who never gets more than 6 to 8 touches in a game. But I think they want a committee. It's what happened last year when Breece Hall went down. No one was really viable for fantasy. So I don't even care who their handcuff is. It's a committee.
But this is that is such an important concept that I think really gets overlooked. For best ball, less doesn't really matter all that much. Mm-hmm. But for when you're in redraft, yes, Michael Carter, 20th round, great value. He ends up being the RB 36 on the year. But game to game, he scores 5, 6, and then he has that 20-point game because Breece is got a big flare up. And then you start the next week and he doesn't. And then it's a Zonovan night game. And then it's that 1 week Anaconda, went out. So I think it's really important kind of what you said. They want a committee. And if you have to guess when to start and you have to pick,
it's huge.
Then don't waste that pick. So even that 20th round pick that ends up being the RB 36 by attrition, that's really a trap play. And you got him in the last round.
So this was always my argument, especially in these leagues. You want bell cows, guys who are just so rock steady, consistent, regardless of game script. Whereas early down workhorses versus scat backs, it's Derrick Henry stinks when the Titans lose, or James White in past years only did well when the Patriots were losing. Things you have to guess the weeks and it never works out. And so I wanted to pay up for bell cow running backs in the earliest rounds, start them every single week and feel great about it. Whereas so many of the zero wide receiver teams, this guy has Diggs, Garrett Wilson, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Christian Kirk, Michael Thomas. Good luck. Even if all those guys are good, predicting
exactly
who's gonna.
Exactly.
So I thought that was a great. I think in today's day and age, the age of the bell cow is over, and the running backs, I do think high probability could be bell cow are going so late in Rashad White, in Alexander Madison, James Conner.
Yeah.
Conner just continues to be slept on.
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. Even if he only plays 5 games, to me. Because the first 4 to 3 weeks of the season, like, let's be honest, we think we know what's going to happen, but really we're all just like you said, like, it's Christmas Day for 4 weeks, and we're just opening the presents, figuring out, how wrong were we, not how right were we, how wrong were we with certain situations. So in a situation like that where there's like not much behind him, and you can anticipate probably negative game scripts.
Okay, good
can
question.
Play third down.
Good question.
I love just getting that.
By the way, he scored over the past 2 seasons more fantasy points per game when Kyler Murray was out than when he was in. He had like a 90.
Cole McCoy's got
Cole don't want to get hit. Cole does not want to get hit.
Please don't want to get hit because he was just feeding Kyler. Just here's a dump off. Here's a dump off.
He does not want to get hit.
Take the ball and go.
Yo, Kyler's running it.
So real quick,
Yeah.
who was the backup for the Cardinals? Like, what are you doing? Are you even worried about the backup, or are you like all of them are trash?
I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Like, so there's some concern here because the regime changed. Like, I spent a lot of time looking into like that,
Me too,
where it's like Cliff Kingsbury's not there. Maybe this new coach wants a committee. It's just like there's no
That's true.
serious competition. So like to me,
So
it has to
I have
be.
to ask you: have you charted Amari Demercado?
Was that the guy who played for the same team
TCU
as
with Kendra Miller?
Oh, okay. No, I haven't.
Okay, do that and get back to me.
Oh, damn.
I'm curious.
He'll always throw a name out there, and I'll be like,
I wanna know.
and then he'll throw it out there again, and be like, oh, okay. And then you'll see him like game day, like suiting up and like run for 100 yards. And be like, what the fuck?
I mean, Kendra Miller went off, so you couldn't have too many touches.
No, they have a lot of touch. I just want
Okay.
to see what you think
Yeah.
about him.
Okay.
He has good size. He has
He's not a Keontae fan. Granted,
All right.
Keontae didn't play that well.
So we've been talking about running backs for a bit, robust RB. If you're gonna go robust RB, let's talk about some of those late round receivers that you're buying. Listen, I don't want to bring up Isaiah Hodgins anymore, but let's talk about other late round receivers who you think are major values. And when I say late round, I'm thinking anywhere from round, let's say 9 and below.
Can we start with? Can you give me round 8 and below?
All right.
I don't know who you're talking about. Wait, before you say it.
Yeah, he knows.
He knows?
He knows. He knows.
So it's either Evans or Pickens. No?
So, could you pull it
Yeah,
back
put
up?
it
Yeah. Go ahead. It keeps popping back down for some reason. But.
So he's man after my own heart here. He took my guy Elijah Moore, who like, so like I said, I'm an analytics guy. And he had a stellar prospect profile, but like this is like a tape thing to me. It's like he is so fucking good. Like, why isn't he hitting for fantasy? I have no idea. Like you watch last year. Zach Wilson could not, come within 15 yards of him, even though his opposing cornerback was like 20 yards away from him. So frustrating. I also have kind of the inside scoop on what happened with the Jets. This new coaching staff in Cleveland, much better quarterback than Zach Wilson, obviously.
Yeah.
And the coaching staff really believes in him, loves him. But it's not just him. Can you scroll back up for just a tiny bit?
I don't know why it keeps popping off.
It's popping off.
It could be my internet. Right, it's popping off. All right, there we go.
So I saw Gabe Davis there. I was like super out on Gabe Davis. Like I was his biggest hater this year. But now, like I would love him in round 8. I think that's a great value. Round 9, I need your opinion on this. I'm still workshopping it. But like I'm the upside wins championships guy.
Oh yeah.
What about Michael Thomas? Like I get
We
like he
talked about
hasn't
Michael
played
Thomas.
a game in forever, but
That was literally our first comment because I kept seeing Chris Olave go in the second round, and I'm not knocking people for taking him in the second round because he could absolutely hit.
I would.
But I was just like, we're just going to completely ignore Michael Thomas. And I think we kind of get into that that fantasy mindset, the shiny new toy, and this was like my first year, like
All
truly
those
in
air yards
Dynasty.
last year.
All the air yards.
Yeah.
Again, Andy Dalton in DGAF mode. I'm not done yet. But what if Michael Thomas stays healthy?
So the last time
What if he does?
the last time he played a full season, he set the NFL record in receptions.
Yeah.
The next year, he only played like 4 or 5 healthy games with Taysom Hill under center, and he averaged like 140 yards per 4 quarters. And granted, it's been a long time since then, but it's just like the upside like, I'll take the 0. Like, even if he doesn't play a single game, I'll take the 0 in round 9 just for the off chance he's like an 11 target guy again, even if he doesn't do much after the catch.
And honestly, I'm thinking, they do. And I'm thinking about the quarterback as well. This is kind of like where I like just think about the psyche of a quarterback and just kind of what I've seen from him.
He's a guy who had Devontae Adams.
I don't see him as this guy that's like, okay, I'm just going to chunk it downfield. I see him as, okay, who's a guy that I can trust? He seems like a safe quarterback. So I think this is maybe the year that we can see the resurgence of Kamara. He's not going to be what he was 2-3 years ago, but I think he's going to be better than what he was last year as far as in the passing game. But I think he's going to kind of lean on that like veteran wide receiver. And we talked about it last year when people were trying to decide between Tyreek Hill and Waddle, which after the fact seems like a crazy statement, but that was like a statement last year, like who to take or like why not to take Tyreek Hill so high. And what we kept saying was just that, like, are you serious? Like Tyreek Hill is just going to alpha his way to number one.
That's
like some of these guys are just going to alpha their way. Like they're just going to be in the wide receiver room and say, hey, look, like
that's what I said.
These hands are trusted.
Go into the huddle and be like, throw me the damn ball.
DeAndre Hopkins, DeAndre Hopkins, I'm open always.
Always. Throw me the damn ball. So I like it.
That's a good point. It's a scary one, but like, what other like caliber wide receiver that pedigree you getting that late?
Who has the upside after him?
Yeah,
none of these guys.
And I don't mind getting a guy that like, even if it's just for like 4 or 5 weeks that I get him, like going that late, like that's 4 or 5 weeks that I get, and I can just sort of kind of like do a little bit of in-season management as well.
Rashid Shaheed's interesting too. Like I don't know that I'm drafting him in start sit, but I have him in like every dynasty league. Yeah. He was more efficient than Chris Olave in yards per route run. It was like one of the best seasons ever for a rookie, and like that's one of the most predictive stats. From like week 12 on, he had more yards than Olave on only like 12 more routes run.
Like if you remember last year, I think the first touch he had was like maybe the kickoff return. They gave him like a reverse, took it to the house. Yeah. And the next touch he had, he took it to the house. I was like, okay, this guy has that talent. I don't know if they're gonna give him the actual like usage. But if they do, if you have that kind of talent, like that's a league winner.
After that, I spent like 800 fab in all of my dynasty, and like the next closest bid was like $8. But so like sunk cost fallacy, but like I do love you so much.
Money well spent, man. Money well spent.
So you talked about Mike Evans and spike weeks. What's more valuable to you guys though? Spike weeks or consistent week to week production? I'm a spike week guy.
I'm a spike week guy. I want the guy that's gonna win me a week.
Really?
I want that.
So I disagree just because there's like diminishing returns, right? Yeah. So like let's say Tyler Lockett scores 80 fantasy points for you one week. It's like, okay, well you beat your opponent by 75 points. So like everything after whatever it was is like superfluous. So like it doesn't really contribute to win probability.
Yeah.
I just like don't care at all. I just like think about just like season long upside. In this format though, the tournament style format, it's a little like you really care about postseason week upside, and then spike week upside can really matter.
Because you can go through the whole season being like one of the top teams, a solid
real quick. So round 17 John Mechie's insane.
I agree.
Of course.
I was just looking him up today.
Yes, sir.
I think
who's your team?
Giants.
Oh, okay. Jersey, that's right. Okay.
I think he's easily the best receiver on the team. I think he's going to be the wide receiver.
That's what I like to hear.
It's good that you can take a stand there. Before we move on, I do have one question. Okay. Are you familiar with the wide receiver dead zone?
No.
Okay, you were right, Deo. Most people know. So, in years past, there's been like this RB dead zone that people are talking about because people were drafting, running backs a lot earlier. Yeah. With the running backs that are coming down and everybody's so like hungry for wide receivers, I feel like that wide receiver round, like, maybe as early as round 4 through like round 7, 8, I feel like they're not necessarily landmines. They aren't guys that are just going to just like be complete duds throughout the year when you look at their end of season numbers, but they're guys that maybe aren't going to like pay off compared to some of the running backs that may be going around them. So between rounds 4 or 7, I'm not going to ask you who to avoid, but like who are like guys that you're like, okay, I want that guy, like these are guys that like are in rounds let's say 5 through 8. Who are the guys between rounds 5 through 8 that you're really going after?
So I just hate dead zone analysis just because I believe every season is its own unique special snowflake. Last year, screw Josh Jacobs. He's a dead zone running back and he broke fantasy football. Yeah. But you said 5 through 8. Who am I targeting here?
5 through 8.
I do love me some Darren Waller in this format.
Yeah.
To get him in round 5, I think he's probably the single most mispriced player in fantasy. Rashad White I like a lot. Deontay Johnson I like a lot.
Okay.
I think he finishes as a high-end wide receiver too.
Sure.
He's he's just he's just always open, and that you get targets, you score fantasy. He's not going to score 0 touchdowns again. Here, I'm not really an Alexander Madison guy, but he is probably going to get the Dalvin role. That's good value. Brandon Ayuk, just because Brett is always right. So the talent's there. James Conner again, we talked about.
Yeah.
Michael Pittman was great value for you. That was a really good pick. Kadarius Toney, I'm taking some L's just because this injury is so bad, but he was one of my must draft at all cost players.
Why?
For sure. So it's again upside wins championships. I care way more about the upside than the risk in this round range. And to me, it was legitimately Tyreek Hill-esque upside. If he could just stay healthy, the talent's there. Brett Veach is not a liar. When Patrick Mahomes is entering his sophomore season, he was this is the greatest player I've ever watched football in practice. And he only had one start under his belt, and he said that. And this offseason, he said, Kadarius Toney is our wide receiver 1. We think he's super he could do the deep threat stuff that Tyreek did. He's super damaging after the catch. And so I just saw minimal downside. Even if he just gets, some people said, oh, he's Mecole Hardman plus, and that's okay, but he's one of the best it's him and Debo are the best yak guys in the game. And Patrick Mahomes averages 12 shovel pass touchdowns per season. Yes. So he'll get that. Yeah. And I really thought he was going to break leagues. This injury was devastating.
Yeah. So obviously, we got tons of just amazing fantasy docs. We have a fantasy doc that works closely with us as well.
So tell me.
So no, I'm just saying, you probably know as much as I know, but I think most people have kind of come to the conclusion that he had probably a small tear in his meniscus that ideally we're looking at 4 to 6 weeks, but what I'm getting at is his ADP is obviously going to drop. How far are you doubling down? Is my question.
Of course, I always double down, man.
Yeah, because this is a situation where you could easily see he's it's he gets injured and then he's an aftermath, and then Sky Moore, Rasheed Rice, or whoever you have kind of filling in his place. It's we're approaching that with the idea that he's gone the entire season, and this just opens up the path for them the entire season, and we don't know.
Have they said anything?
They haven't said anything. Well, they said potentially week 1, which I think is about 6 weeks.
Season at least.
Yeah.
So by week 5, we'll forget about it, basically.
Yeah, week 1, we could potentially forget about it.
So you can get him at a discount right now, then.
Potentially. I like the idea of doubling down, or just now, if you weren't in before, grabbing some shit. Because you don't know. He may not do anything the first 1 to 2 weeks, but week 3, when he's healthy, they had a plan for him. They have a plan for him. I don't know what that plan is, but they have a plan for him. Yeah. They traded for him. They've been talking him up. So they have a plan.
With these tournaments, all that matters is really late in the season anyway, right?
Yeah.
The first, the D-Hop conversation we had last
year.
It's for 6, we drafted D-Hop, late or mid-round, and we were we're not going to have it for 6 weeks, so we have to figure it out. But when he comes back, he really kind of, up our team.
Absolutely.
That was a great
That's the type of player,
So. We also got Josh Jacobs, and we had to force ourselves. Round 7, we were round 7, look, let's not push it. Round 7, let's just,
we didn't like that.
We did get the tournament with that.
So you know who I'm drafting to on the Chiefs? One of my highest owned wide receivers in best ball and dynasty, Justin Ross.
Oh, come on.
Here we go.
Come on.
Never let it set this up. Let's set this up. I'll give you that. Let's set this up. Before the show.
I thought I got in trouble here. You're with me, I'm guessing.
We had a draft. You want to pull it? No, don't pull up the draft. That draft is ugly. But we had a draft, and like we drafted Mahomes. We actually drafted Mahomes. We were in, I think, the 5th pick, and Kelsey
first. He came to the 5th round.
Are you guys teaming up? Like,
Yeah.
Why don't you pull it up? Let them see.
Pull it up.
This is not our best work, okay? Don't critique too hard. But yeah, we were like, obviously, we wanted to see, okay, who could we pair him with? This is like,
real quick, we didn't mention it, but with FFPC drafts or leagues, they give you what they call, well, I don't even know what they call it, but they give you this first look option, where basically the two teams that play that Thursday night before the season starts, you can see how they play, but you don't have to set your lineup where they're locked in. You can actually see how the game plays out and then put them in your lineup after the fact.
Wait, what is this?
It's FFPC.
What format?
This format.
You're not aware of this? This has been like the last 2 or 3 years.
Wait, what's going on?
So Thursday night's game is like a free preview.
Yeah.
So say you have Mahomes and he gets hurt.
Because it's the Chiefs and the Lions.
Yeah.
If he's in your starting lineup, you can just take him out of the starting lineup and add him in.
You don't have to put him in a lineup. Because
Yeah, you
don't have to set your lineup until the Sunday. First week.
This is a free preview.
What?
So anybody playing on Thursday night, we just load up.
The Chiefs and Lions. Right. Last year, 2 years ago, we taking the Texans and the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, when I realized this,
Wait, just week 1 or
Just week one. Just week one.
I realized this like 2 or 3 years ago. And I called Abby. I was like, Abby, you see this thing?
Wait, no, his first word. Don't tell him about it. Don't tell him about it.
We can literally take these players, see how it plays out. So if a guy hits, put him in your lineup. If he doesn't hit, like if Mahomes has a bust game, you don't have to actually have him in your lineup.
Yeah.
So it works out. So that's really good for the type of team we built. But you can go ahead with the team.
All right, so Travis Kelce was our first pick. We stacked
Travis Kelce is probably my 101 in this format.
Yeah.
by the way. Okay.
Yeah, so it's
So
tight end
105 is
premium.
nice.
We took Derek
And you got
Henry.
the stack.
Yeah.
Damn.
And then we stacked.
we fought about.
with- Yeah. We fought about
that stat.
Right, tell you. We fought about
I
it.
like this team. I don't know. You got a bunch of my guys. You got
Yeah.
Darren Waller. Derrick Henry Mixon, I think, is a great combo. You got
those receivers.
Those receivers. Go scroll up with the receivers.
Oh, you're right. I mean, Marquise Brown, wide receiver 30, is great.
Yeah. So we but the idea is like,
Let's see who wide receiver 2 is.
Yeah,
though.
let's
It's not scrolling up. I don't know why. You don't want to see.
Yeah, maybe Mahomes is not the pick, but
I think our receiver 2 is Bateman.
It really is Rashad
Bateman
Bateman.
and Sutton.
Because we ended up taking Kamara because we were like, you know what? We missed out on Elijah Moore. Like receivers just went. Like we probably played the. We probably didn't have to go.
Like they went right before us.
Yeah, we probably didn't have to go Dalvin Cook there, but I think I was a little in it on that.
I mean, who would we have went other than Cook? Like scroll up, Chris. Like,
It's not scrolling up for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why. I think it's my Wi-Fi. Maybe.
So like we were saying with Michael Thomas, right? Like the last time he played a full season, he scored like the 7th most fantasy points per game in like NFL history, whatever it was. So like we know he has insane upside, probably diminished at this stage of his career, but like unrivaled upside within that ADP range. And like with Justin Ross, it's the same thing. It's once upon a time, as a rookie at Clemson, freshman at Clemson, he had the best age-adjusted yards per route run season in PFF history. He had more receiving yards than T. Higgins, who was older than him, Hunter Renfrow, who was older than him, Maury Rogers, and it's like this was a guy who like every draft pundit was saying this is the next Larry Fitzgerald.
I remember.
He's going to be a top 10 pick, and then he had the spinal issue, which like he had the 2 years earlier when he set those ridiculous numbers. He just couldn't get a doctor to clear him. Yeah, and then he came back. Like he finally got a doctor to clear him. He came back. He had a broken bone in his foot. He like was bad. He wasn't like terrible. He tried to play through it. Like, wasn't as good.
The thing about it is when he had those issues, I remember the coach at Clemson was talking almost like his career was over.
Well, at first, he couldn't get a doctor. He consulted like 12 different doctors, and like 9 of them wouldn't clear.
Yeah, so it was almost like it's almost like his future was just in jeopardy. It was almost like just kind of.
And so, he had the broken foot for the pro day, so you have to throw that out. And then with the NFL, only 2 teams had medical doctors clear him.
Yes, he didn't get drafted.
one of which was the Chiefs.
Yes.
But like they cleared it, and they're like
Yeah.
he's running routes in the field. Like it seems like they
running.
gave him a free year last year. They kept him on IR.
kept him.
They're
They didn't
investing
cut
in
him,
him.
yeah.
And it's like, what's the competition? Like I was like Sky Moore's biggest hater last year.
Yeah, same.
Justin Watson, I don't think is good. Richie James, I don't think is good. Rasheed Rice, I don't think is
You don't like
good.
what you get, James?
Nah.
He's just he's like a slot. He's
I think all these guys are like super
guy.
mid.
Well, he's a
Just a
Giants
guy.
player,
He's a
so
Jag.
he was on the Giants last year.
Yeah.
But he
I-
had those games where he looked okay. Right?
Yeah,
Like, he was
I-
serviceable.
That's the Giant. They just have like 8 like run of the mill slot wide
Slot,
receivers
yeah,
who don't really
slot,
impress
yeah,
me.
yeah, I got you.
But yeah, so like a bunch of guys who are super mid, and then
Yeah.
you have Justin Ross, who like at least
Yeah.
once upon a time was like
Yeah.
super elite.
Superstar, yeah.
Kadarius Toney too. Like if he could just play,
play, man.
play 80% of the snaps once, like he's a freak.
So Scott, can you look at the rest of? Can you scroll? You didn't let him see. I want to know what he thinks, right? Because so you brought up Michael Thomas.
think
We
we
talked
probably
about Michael
should
Thomas, I
draft a wide
believe,
receiver.
but Michael Thomas went right before us. Like scroll down a little bit. We already saw that part. So Michael Thomas went right before us, and we settled on Bateman.
Yeah.
We were looking for somebody that possibly could be a wide receiver one because that was going to be our second wide receiver.
I think that was a good pick at the time. Now, like I don't know how long
I'm
he's going
still a
to be
believer
out.
in Bateman.
Okay, yeah,
Don't
that's
kill my dream.
No, I think
Okay.
clearly this round, like he's the best pick.
Okay.
No one after him either, like OBJ, Gross.
So I guess I'm really asking: is there anything you probably
Van.
would have done differently? Just looking at our draft, we're in the 5 hole. Just how things played out. The guy drafted after, before us, and all of that.
Well, you got sniped on Tony. And Gabe Davis and Lockett going. Yeah, and then there's a
Super
tier.
early.
Oh no, I would have taken Pittman instead of Dalvin.
Yeah, that was the big one.
That was a big one that we
That was a
discussed.
big
one. I think Mahomes was a mistake. I liked it when I first looked at it. I think Mahomes was a mistake.
Oh damn!
I might have taken Penny instead of Kamara. I don't know. Actually, they're
So you hire
comparable.
Penny this year? Are you not concerned with the contract at all? Because that's
No.
my big thing.
I just like to me that's just Howie being smart is like
Okay.
underpay the running back position. I think he's just clearly the best running back on the roster so long as he stays healthy. And it's like DeAndre Swift is good, but he's sort of like redundant to Kenneth Gainwell, so there's some uncertainty there.
got you.
Whereas like who is the Miles Sanders? Like to me, it's clearly Rashad Penny.
Yeah.
And he was getting first team reps today out of
Come on,
camp.
man, you know how
That's
that goes.
right.
But you know, you're right. It could change.
He
But
ranked
they have a plan, and their plan was he gets first team reps, and they said DeAndre Swift was working in the passing game,
Right.
the passing game
And
situation.
I saw that, or I don't know if I saw the exact same tweet as you, but I did see the tweet. They said he got first team reps, but they also got second team reps and third team reps.
Okay, I didn't read
so
that.
It's almost
part.
like they're
I
rotating.
just stopped at first.
Priors confirmed, right?
So
yeah.
I like Penny, but I mean like Kamara's a great like what if he just like resumes the bell
Like
cow
we haven't
role,
lost
right?
hope on Kamara. We still believe
Yeah,
because we think
yeah.
the talent is there. The usage just was.
We just thought he was
last
misused
year.
so badly
Yeah.
last year, and that led to all of his inefficiencies. Why they had him running in between the tackles over and over again, I have no clue. It made zero sense.
It was so stupid, but like here's the thing: he also ranked top 5 in route share, top 5 in target share, and like when that happens, you typically finish like top 7 in fantasy points per game. It's so rare because targets are so valuable. I think it was like top 3 in each actually. Part of what happened was like the Saints offense was so bad. I think like their last 7 weeks, something like that, the average only like 7 first downs per game. It was like worst or second worst. Like it was so bad. But also like he was wildly inefficient. Like you remember Alvin Kamara was the guy who like only gets 13 touches per game, but like scores as many fantasy points as the guy's getting 25 touches per game. And now he's like the reverse, where like last year and the year before, that could be injuries. Like
I think a lot of it really had to do with the quarterback. And I'm not saying Andy Dalton played well. I think he played well for a
PFF
quarterback.
said he was a top 5 quarterback last year.
Exactly. But I think he played well from a standpoint of he was looking downfield. And when he would look to Kamara, he would look to him literally as the last read, which is probably what quarterbacks are supposed to do in most offenses. But he would look to him so late that when he passed to him, it was almost like it was out of rhythm. As opposed to like a Drew Brees who like probably dropped back and understood that these guys are going to be covered. Let me play a little coy, look this way, and then let me quickly dump it off to Kamara in space. I don't know. I may be making some of this stuff up, but I do like the idea of Derek Carr, who fed Jacobs, who really wasn't.
Did he feed Jacobs that much? Did Jacobs get a lot of targets?
Okay, maybe he was just a bell cow. He
had
more
the
targets
most
than he used
targets
to.
of his career.
Yeah,
of his career.
So it wasn't like insane amounts.
So I actually like the idea of them bringing in Jamal Williams. I still think the issue is going to be TD
And
equity.
Jamal Williams stinks.
Yeah.
I like Kendre Miller. He was
How do you say his name?
Kendre Miller.
Is it Kendra? Okay.
Yeah, that's how
That's how we say it. Keandre. For some
Yeah,
reason.
that's all right.
I
You
feel
can
like
say
it's too
Keandre.
easy.
He's gonna come out one day and say his
Kendra
name is
Miller.
really Keandre.
I really like Kendra. Like this ticker y'all see right here. I think I have Kendra Miller with like 7 or 8. I like him a lot.
I don't know where
He reminded me of Joe Mixon a little bit.
Yeah.
I thought he was.
Yeah.
I liked him more than Zach Charbonnet. I liked him.
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
More than
Me too.
Devon
He's
Achane.
fast too. Like he didn't run his 40 because he was injured, but he's fast.
There was one guy who does they record they watch like every game and like whatever your longest runs were, they run it through like some computer software to determine like how fast they think you were running, and based on this is like he had like a 4.38 40-yard dash, which is like insane.
Really?
It was heavy. I don't know how.
Move him up, Chris.
I'm like very skeptical of this, but it's just like
Wherever he is in the rankings, move him up.
He couldn't run because he was coming off injury.
Right. That's good to know, though.
Well, guys, while we're talking about drafting, don't forget the viewers are going to get the opportunity to draft against us. August 2nd, we have a draft. I believe that's 9 p.m.
9 p.m. next week.
Yeah.
9
Next
p.m.
week?
Eastern
time.
8 p.m. Central.
Right. We're on Central time, so
Yeah, we just put this draft out there to sucker them in.
You want to FFPC?
I haven't done one yet, but I'm down to join you guys. Yeah.
Next week you can come in. Send your info.
Scott Barrett. We just gonna sit back and watch. We draft out of
Scott Barrett next week. Yeah.
Well, you're gonna take on my guys clearly. We're in lockstep right now.
So trust me, when us three get together, we fight a lot.
We fight a lot.
We have different
Yeah,
minds, trust me. So,
all right, guys, I think that's the episode this week.
wait, I wanted to ask.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We'll do it.
Oh, with the training, so every team's now done their training camp so far, right?
Yeah.
Has anything that you've seen, because I know you're on Twitter a fair amount, has anything kind of stuck out to you that's kind of been interesting, whether it's small or big, just anything that just kind of like, ooh, this intrigues me a little bit?
I'll be honest, I'm not really great on my feet. There might be something I'm missing. I will say for the most part, especially early in training camp, it's just confirmation bias. Like I just Darren Waller's crushing it. Giants camp, awesome. Check, Justin Ross, is playing behind Justin Watson. And is like, it's only a matter of time.
every fantasy player ever.
But I will say, like, the training camp buzz guys, like, I have a Twitter thread somewhere where, like, every year I just, like, keep track of, like, the training camp buzz guys, and, like, all of them stink. Like, Romeo Dubs, like, you can call that a hit. Isaiah Pacheco, and, like, that's it.
They have buzz during the training camp, but they don't do anything during the season,
So every year the guys who, let's say, mid-July to August jump, like, 6 rounds in ADP, those guys are never league winners. Those guys are never even like serious ADP beaters.
Like Mike Davis a couple of years ago. Like remember when that picture came out with Mike Davis?
Mike Davis in the top.
Do you have a guy like that this year that you think is kind of just rising up? Is probably going to end up. I mean, you don't have to be.
So I'm saying like you could just fade that. I'm saying like you could profit by just like fading the training camp hype machine, which is like these beat writers are just trying to get clicks.
Well, for me, the thing I only really look at is who's like what team they're running with, like somebody in first team rep.
Oh yeah, that's important for sure. Yeah, I like usage stuff is like, Sky Moore is definitely the Chiefs slot wide receiver, and it's like, all right, fuck, like I'll move him 3 rounds on my rankings.
I got you.
Exactly. Why not Justin Ross as the big slot? But okay.
All right, guys, that is it for this week. Please like, rate, subscribe. We're out.
Oh man, that was amazing.
That was a good.
Baby say it's all in the fun, but I hit the wall and I've got a ton of hunks waiting for me to leave ya. I know I'm alive, but I got the spot. The minute you smile, I'm more an eruption. I don't understand what you pretend. My heart is holding no auditions. I be nice, but you rather learn. I continue to know the distance. Hold from being too persistent.